What's up everybody? I hope you're doing well. In this video, we're going to be doing a battery drain test between every iPhone 15 model. And as usual, I want to go over a few things regarding how this test was conducted. Of course, these all being products that were just released, they're all brand new with brand new batteries inside. And this is important because the only way to truly conduct a fair battery test is to use iPhones that all have new batteries inside to ensure none of the devices have any varying levels of battery degradation. Of course, the brightness is evenly matched on all devices to the absolute best of my abilities, and I used a lux meter for precision. All these iPhones are connected to the very same Wi-Fi network, and they're also all connected to the very same cellular network. However, Wi-Fi will be on and connected throughout this entire test. And the media volume is turned all the way down on all of them, and also True Tone, Night Shift, and Auto Brightness are disabled on all of them. And also, the 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max do have displays that can go all the way up to 120 Hertz depending on what you're doing. And we are going to be leaving that capability turned on for this test, as this is the way these devices are configured straight out of the box, and as a result, that's how 99% of the people using these phones are going to leave it. And of course, they're all running the latest version of iOS 17 as of recording this video. And before we jump into the test, I just want to take a moment and thank Ugreen for sponsoring this video. Ugreen's Nexode RG 30-watt and 65-watt chargers are the perfect fast charging adapters for your iPhone and MacBook. The 30-watt charger can charge an iPhone 15 Pro to 60% in just about 30 minutes. And the 65-watt charger can charge the latest 2023 M2 MacBook Air to 70% in an hour. What I really like about the 65-watt charger is the fact that it has 3 ports, allowing you to charge 3 devices simultaneously. These chargers feature gallium nitride technology, which features 95% energy conversion efficiency, which is great for the environment, and it also helps reduce the amount of heat generated when you charge your devices. Throughout the charging process, the mini smart screen shows emoji expressions to indicate the charging status of your devices, with a different emoji expression for charging and fully charged, which is a fun addition. This pairs nicely with the robot-like design with the detachable cover for the wall prongs that allow the charger to stand up on its own, like a mini robot, which is again a nice fun addition. These chargers also feature thermal guard protection, which is Ugreen's intelligent temperature control method that protects your devices in the event of unusually high internal temperature or output by automatically adjusting power levels. I'll leave a link to where you can check out the Ugreen Nexode RG charging adapters in the video description. Big shout out to Ugreen for sponsoring this video. And alright, with everything set up and all devices charged up to 100%, we're going to go ahead and turn off the power strip that these devices are connected to. We'll get rid of the power cables, and as usual, we're going to kick things off with 1 hour of YouTube video streaming. So we're going to be streaming the very same video on all devices at 1080p quality, full screen for an hour. And checking in after a full hour of YouTube video streaming, as you can see, they all just lost 1% across the board. So next up, we're going to head on over to Safari for 1 hour of web browsing. For the first 30 minutes, we're going to be loading web pages and scrolling through web pages on apple.com, and for the second 30 minutes, we're going to be loading web pages and scrolling through web pages on theverge.com. And checking in after a full hour of web browsing, as you can see, they all lost a very similar amount of percentage points, with the larger 15 Plus and 15 Pro Max actually both losing the exact same amount, being 7%. Next up, we're going to head on over to Instagram for 1 hour of scrolling through posts. And as I always like to do, I just want to take a moment and say that, you should keep in mind tests like this are not at all representative of real life and how you're actually going to use your device. Of course, nobody's using their phone from 100% charged, all the way until 0% dead in the same sitting in the same location. Therefore, there's just a lot of factors that tests like this don't account for, such as standby time when your phone's just asleep in your pocket or on the table, varying levels of cell signal strength, Wi-Fi strength from moving around throughout your day, varying amounts of background processes depending on what you're doing, and again, moving around throughout your day, different temperatures, based on different environments that you're in, and just a whole host of other factors that all have an impact on how the battery performance of your device will be. What you can really expect to get out of a video like this is just kind of a general idea of how these devices are going to perform when doing, the exact same specific set of tasks, back to back, just in a controlled environment like this. It's not really going to convert to something that you can, apply to, real day-to-day life. But it does give you a little bit of context just through a direct comparison like this. And of course, it also just all depends on how you personally use your device. Anyways, checking in after a full hour of Instagram, you can see similar overall patterns continuing here. Very similar losses for all devices, of course, with the 15 Plus and 15 Pro Max in the lead, these being the devices with the biggest batteries of the bunch. Next up, we're going to head on over to TikTok for 1 hour of scrolling through posts. And here are the battery capacity numbers for each of the iPhone 15 models. And And as you can see here, the iPhone 15 Pro actually has a smaller battery capacity than the standard iPhone 15, which might not be what you expect. Now, it's very important to consider that a higher battery capacity number doesn't always directly correlate with having better battery performance. There's a multitude of factors within a phone that contribute to how the battery performance will actually be, such as the efficiency of the processor in the device, software and app optimization, and also display refresh rate, which is probably the biggest of all for the iPhone 15 Pro, as the 15 Pro does have that display that goes up to 120 Hz, which is more power consuming than the standard iPhone 15's 60 Hz display. So a smaller battery with a more power consuming display is generally not what you want to hear, but on the other hand, you should also consider that the new A17 Pro chip in the iPhone 15 Pro could possibly be more power efficient in a major way than the A16 chip in the standard iPhone 15, so it might level out a bit. But all this being said, as the test progresses here, the 15 Pro does lose a little bit more battery than the standard iPhone 15 for the most part throughout the test. It's not a huge amount, but it does drain a little bit more than the standard 15 consistently. So as you can see here, same trends are continuing with the larger devices losing the same amount of percentage, and in terms of the smaller devices, once again, you can see the 15 Pro did lose 2 percentage points more than the standard 15. So the 15 Pro has fallen behind a bit at this point, but again, nothing is substantial. And next up, we're going to head on over to Minecraft for an hour of playing the game. And of course, all the graphics settings are set to the exact same for this game on all the devices. And continuing the discussion, in regards to the battery capacities, in terms of the larger devices, so the 15 Plus and the 15 Pro Max, the 15 Pro Max has a larger capacity than the standard 15 Plus, which is the reverse of how it is for the smaller models of the iPhone at 15. And the way that the larger devices handle it makes more sense to me, as again, the Pro Max device does have that more power-consuming 120 Hz display, so it has a bigger battery to help out with that, so it doesn't take quite as much of a hit. And in terms of the 15 Plus, it does have a bit of a smaller battery than the 15 Pro Max, but it has a less power-consuming 60 Hz display, so it might not need much more battery capacity than it already has to keep up with the 15 Pro Max. And as you're going to see throughout this video, the 15 Plus and 15 Pro Max stay very evenly matched throughout this entire test. Anyways, checking in after a full hour of playing Minecraft, yet again, similar trends are observed here, with once again the 15 Pro losing a bit more battery than the standard 15, and the 15 Plus and 15 Pro Max losing the exact same amount of percentage. So next up, we're going to head on over to PUBG for 1 hour of playing the game, and once again, the same graphic settings are configured for this game as well on all the devices. And checking in after a full hour of playing PUBG, as much as I don't want to sound like a broken record, similar patterns are observed here as well, with the smaller 15 and 15 Pro losing the exact same amount in this case, and the larger 15 Plus and 15 Pro Max losing almost the exact same amount. So still, very similar performance in terms of, the two smaller devices and the two larger devices. And, all these phones have done phenomenal so far in this test. I mean, considering everything we've put them through, for them all to be still in, the 40 to 60% range is quite impressive. So with the first round of the battery test complete, we're going to head all the way back to YouTube for our second scheduled hour of video streaming. And then after that, we're going to continue with, everything else that we just did. So we're just going to do a second round of web browsing, a second round of scrolling through Instagram, a second round of TikTok, etc. So my overall advice at this point when it comes to choosing an iPhone 15 model with battery life in consideration is the following. So I wouldn't worry too much about the distinction between the Pro and non-Pro devices. I think the real more important distinction comes down to the size choice. So whether you want to go for the smaller 6.1-inch display format or the larger 6.7-inch display format, as that's going to make the biggest difference. Of course, the 15 Plus and 15 Pro Max having those huge batteries, that's where you're going to see, the best battery life without a doubt. There is, some minor differences, as you're going to see, when we get the final results at the end of the test between, the 15 Pro and then the 15 Plus and the 15 Pro Max. But if you're leaning towards, either going Pro or not going Pro, I wouldn't really let that sway your decision in terms of battery performance, at least, because unless you're just an absolute crazy power user who, needs the absolute best battery life, it's probably not going to be enough to, really sway that decision in any meaningful way. I mean, these devices all have phenomenal battery life. I mean, to make it even this far in the test and be doing the way that they are, I think that surpasses probably most people's, day-to-day needs in terms of, making it through the day. So you really can't lose with getting any of these devices. The one thing I will say though is if you've, owned a Pro Max device or, the 14 Plus from last year and you're used to just having incredible battery life, it will probably be difficult to go down to, a standard 15 or the smaller 15 Pro just because of what you're used to. But if you were ending the day with, over 40-50% battery life and, you weren't even taking advantage of that, then it might not make that big of a difference. It all just depends on how you use your device. But yeah, guys, as you can see, the 15 Pro is starting to fall considerably more behind than the standard iPhone 15 at this point in the test. I'm not sure that this is entirely the 120 Hz display on a device that has a smaller battery. I would guess that's probably what's going on here, but there could be other factors. Meanwhile, the 15 Plus and 15 Pro Max are basically performing identical in this test, give or take 1 percentage point, sometimes 2. And during our second scheduled hour of playing Minecraft, the iPhone 14 Pro dies at 10 hours and 28 minutes into the test. And exactly 30 minutes later, the standard iPhone 15 also dies at 10 hours and 58 minutes into the test. And after that second round of Minecraft, you can see the 15 Plus and 15 Pro Max are still basically performing identical, just 1 percentage point apart at this point, both losing the exact same amount of percentage in that 1 hour of Minecraft. So we're going to move on to our second round of playing PUBG. And 12 hours and 8 minutes into the test, in the middle of our second round of playing PUBG, the iPhone 15 Plus dies. And a few minutes later, that round of PUBG ended, and checking in here, as you can see, the 15 Pro Max is barely hanging on at 3%. And alright, with the second round of the battery test complete, we're going to head back to YouTube for our third scheduled hour of video streaming. And 12 hours and 52 minutes into the test, the iPhone 15 Pro Max dies. And guys, I just want to address the 15 Pro Max dying 40 minutes after the 15 Plus. This is not a result that you should interpret as this huge disadvantage that the 15 Plus had in this test, because this was not a result that we saw continuously throughout the test whatsoever. The only reason for this big of a difference between the 15 Pro Max and the 15 Plus is the fact that our scheduled hour of playing a PUBG ended right as the 15 Pro Max was just barely hanging on at 3%. Directly after that, we moved on to a much less battery taxing task in comparison to PUBG, which was streaming that YouTube video. And we moved on to streaming that YouTube video right after the 15 Plus died during that hour of playing PUBG. So if we would have kept playing PUBG on the 15 Pro Max, it definitely would have died much sooner, making the difference between the 15 Plus and the 15 Pro Max a lot less in terms of the, final time. But I think it's important to be very structured in tests like this for consistency's sake, but sometimes if the timing is a certain way, switching from something battery intensive like a game to something less battery intensive like streaming a video can cause a bit of a discrepancy between two devices that actually have very similar battery performance. So just bear that in mind when looking at the final numbers here for the 15 Plus and the 15 Pro Max. But guys, at the end of the day, you can see the 15 Plus and 15 Pro Max are without a doubt the battery champs of this video. So if you want the absolute best of the best battery life, either of those are going to do you just fine. And also, the standard iPhone 15 and 15 Pro also have a great battery life. I mean, both of these devices going for well above and beyond what most people would need in terms of battery performance. So I don't think you're going to have any issues with those. But, if you are one of those people that just wants the absolute best of the best device in terms of battery life, definitely the 15 Plus or 15 Pro Max are definitely going to be the best device for you. And guys, that just about wraps it up for this video. Let me know down below in the comments section if you guys are planning on buying a new iPhone 15, and if you are, let me know which model you're going to get. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and of course, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.